This is part A1, so what we're going to do is we have our crucible here, we have our lid. We're only touching with gloves from this point on because we don't want to get any additional skin oils on this. We're going to fire this for 5 minutes to clean it. So we're going to go into the fume hood, we'll put our crucible and our lid right on our triangle. We'll make sure that's ready to go. We're going to turn on the gas. You can kind of hear it hiss. We have our striker. We're going to light it. And now, literally what we're going to do is we're just going to let this heat up in the flame for 5 minutes so it's fired clean. So we have now fired this. It has to cool down. So it's going to sit here until it gets to room temperature. And then what we'll do is we'll use our handy dandy crucible tongs to pick it up, and then we'll mass it. So we'll be back to this one in about a few minutes after it cools down. So what we're going to do now is we're going to heat up the salt. This is part B. This is a thermal decomposition. Just so you can see, we have a blue hydrated salt, and what we want to do is heat it so this really bright blue turns to a very dull light blue. We're going to leave the lid slightly ajar because the whole goal is it's hydrated, so we need the water to be able to escape as we're heating it. What we're going to do now is we're going to turn on the gas and we're going to light it and we're going to heat it up. Now we don't want to have an intense flame in the beginning because it might be a little too much. So we're going to pull the fume hood down a little lower so we can hopefully get the flame on it. We're going to turn it down and we're going to heat this up slowly for 10 minutes. So this is kind of a bit of the boring part, but we're just going to gradually increase the heat and it's going to sit for 10 more minutes. So we've heated this for 10 minutes now, and what we're going to do is we're going to let it cool, but I just want you to see inside. So if we're looking, that blue that was the color of my glove is now this almost whitish, pale blue. So we've already shut off the gas, we're going to close the lid, okay, and we are going to let this sit to cool to room temperature, and then we're going to mass it one more time. Now we have our cooled sample. We are going to get its mass. So we'll put it on the balance. And our cooled sample weighs 28.588 grams. Again, 28.588 grams. And if you want to look inside briefly, I'm just going to show you. It's like a white ash, which is good. Sorry about that. But what we're going to do now is we are going to take this sample and we're going to heat it one more time, and then we're going to mass it again, see what it gets to, okay? So we have our sample back on the flame, and we're going to heat this only for 2 more minutes now. See how it's pure white? That's great. But we're going to hopefully get another heat for 2 more minutes, and then we'll let it cool and then put it back on the balance. And if we get masses that agree with each other, we are done and we've removed all the water from the hydrated salt. So we let our crucible cool down after its second firing. We're going to get its mass. Oops. So our mass here is 28.586. Again, 28.586. And what we'll do, because it's different than the last time, we're going to fire one more time and then let it cool down. But if you want to peer in, and I'll let you peer in for a second, we're really looking at white. So I think we've got all the water off, but we'll heat it one more time and we'll see how that goes. So we're going to bring this back on to heat some more. So again, we are actually 28.588. 28.588 is our mass. So we have our sample back on the flame, and we're going to heat this only for 2 more minutes now. See how it's pure white? That's great. But we're going to hopefully get another heat for 2 more minutes, and then we'll let it cool and then put it back on the balance. And if we get masses that agree with each other, we are done and we've removed all the water from the hydrated salt. Okay, we had just fired this one last time and we're going to get its mass. And our mass is 28.586. 28.586. We're going to call that good. and we are for the most part done. So that would be the anhydrous salt, or the salt that is now all dry. See how it's nice and white inside, not like the blue we started with. So there it is.